Alright, Automonga here. So in this episode, I'm talking about lubrication system failures and don't let your engine seize up. First, I will talk about engine. I mean, we already know what that is, but let me just put it in perspective that the engine is the heart of the vehicle, whether it's a car, truck, motorcycle, or even boat. It generates power to propel the vehicle forward, but without proper maintenance, its efficiency and longevity can be severely compromised. This is the simple truth about it. The engine is very important, but if you don't take care of the engine, if you don't maintain it properly, the efficiency is going to drop and it's going to affect the longevity of the engine. We already know what the lubrication system is. I've made a video about lubrication, but let me just gloss over it. A lubrication system is responsible for ensuring that the internal components of the engine are properly lubricated. It pumps oil through the engine, coating metal parts to reduce friction and wear. These are the important things that you look forward for in a lubrication system. To lubricate the system, to reduce friction and to wear and things like that, and also to cool the engine, also help absorb heat as well. So these are some of the common factors or something characteristics of the lubrication system. So let's go into talk about the role of the engine, in the engine system, which goes out to what I just said now, which is to reduce friction. One of the functions of the lubrication system is to reduce friction. When you have two metal parts, let's say you have a metal part here and you have a metal, maybe in a bearing system, the function of the oil is to be in between these two metal parts, to coat these two metal, the surface of this metal part, to ensure that this one and this one, the two of them does not grind on each other directly, but rather the oil provides a little film, a thick film between the two metals, so as to reduce the amount of friction that the two of them experiences. So that is one of the big functions of the lubrication system. Oil, I'll talk about oil viscosity, where I'll talk about the thickness of the oil and everything about the oil. I'll try to make a video on that also. So the second one is heat dissipation, which is very important. A lot of people do not even think about this when they think about the lubrication system, because they just feel lubrication system is just to lubricate the system, to ensure that everything is moving smoothly without high sound. But one of the very important qualities or properties, or one of the functions of the lubrication system, is to help to absorb heat. That is why when you run your engine, start the engine, and then you open up the oil or try to remove the oil, you see that the oil will always be warm and hot because it is closer to the combustion chamber. And the combustion chamber is generating a lot of heat. The heat is being absorbed by the wall, the cylinder wall, and the cylinder wall eventually, the heat transfers down to the engine system where the oil is located, and the oil also absorbs. Yeah, I know the water is there, the air is there, cooling system, but the oil also absorbs its own part from the system. So it also helps to absorb heat and make sure that the engine does not seize up. So cleaning, this is also a very important quality. One of the roles this lubrication system play, it cleans up the system. It is designed, or it is manufactured in such a way that there are additives in the oil that is used for engine that ensures that as it's going to a metal part or going through a surface or on a surface, it helps to clean. If there are debris there are little pieces of particles there, the oil has the capacity to clean up, to mop up, to absorb, to drag those things and carry them along with itself, to make sure that the surface is always clean. That is why when you open up an engine, even an engine that a motor, maybe a car that you've parked for like, let's say 2 or 3 years or thereabout, if you open up the engine or thereabout, you will see that the inside the engine will still be clean. You still see oil, but the metal itself will still be clean, and it will not be corroded, which is another important part, corrosion prevention. It will not be corroded because of the oil. So if you leave those same parts, the engine parts, if you leave them open to the element, to moisture, the weather and everything, it will rust and it will not be as clean as. But because the oil is there and the system is enclosed, it's able to. If the oil still remains okay, if it is not caked or something, if it's still okay, if it's still, flowing, it's going to ensure that the system, the oil sump, you still see it can be cleaned. You just clean it easily and you see that it's shiny, and there will be no corrosion, there will be no rust. So these are some of the important rules of the lubrication system that that we have, which is important to know. So let me go to the next slide. So there are some of the signs, some of the things that you notice when the system is about to fail, which is important that if you drive a car or if you use an engine, you should always look out for these things so that you don't get into trouble. One of them is low oil pressure. When you start seeing that the system is having low oil pressure, that might be a clear sign of lubrication system failure. So, but if you are not conversant or if you are not careful and if you are not observant, you might not know. And when you don't know, that can lead to a lot of other issues. So, low oil pressure, which can be as a result of maybe the filter is clogged, maybe the oil pump itself is not very active anymore. A lot of things can lead to the low oil pressure. So, or maybe there is leakage somewhere. So you have to make sure that these things are intact. So when you start seeing signs of this, when you start noticing that there's low oil pressure, that can be as a result of system failure. The system is about to fail or it has failed already. So that is one thing you notice. And then engine noise. This one is also this one is like very, very clear sign. Engine noise. When the engine begins to make a lot of noise, the oil, remember, the oil is supposed to produce or kind of give a little bit of film in between the two metals. So when it does that, it's going to ensure that the friction is reduced. And when the friction is reduced, the noise of the engine will be reduced. But when there is not enough oil, when there's oil shortage or the oil itself is degraded, engine begins to make noise. It doesn't mean that this is the only reason why your engine will make noise. There are a lot of other things that will make your engine make noise. Maybe the bearing itself is already bad, or maybe there are some metal parts that are hitting each other. So, but this is one of the reasons why your engine will make high noise. That is not normal. And then you have the excessive exhaust smoke. Now, this one is a very important one because this one has different parts to it. Because there are different smokes that you can have in an engine, and when those smokes come out, they can mean a lot of things, which I think I'll make a special video talk about the smokes. But one of the important ones you see here is that when you start having thick smoke, maybe the combustion mixture is beginning, the ratio is not normal based on the running of the engine. Maybe the engine is running with higher pressure, so the combustion mixture is higher, and then you might have a black smoke that is very thick and black. That can be an issue. Or maybe when there's maybe the piston walls, the cylinder walls are becoming worn. So the piston and the ring are not as tight as they should be. So oil is escaping from the crankcase into the combustion chamber. That can lead to blue smoke. So you can see your exhaust having blue smoke. That can be as a result of that. So these smokes, when you start seeing that the smoke of your engine is different or is becoming abnormal, you should start suspecting that something can be wrong. And based on the color, it might be as a result of lubrication system failing. Of course, you can have other things that can lead to that. Maybe when water or the coolant is escaping into the engine as well, or escaping into the combustion chamber. There are different colors. I'll try to make more video to explain that in depth. But this is one of these symptoms that you see. And then overheating, which is a common one. Overheating is very, very common, which try to show you that the lubrication system is failing. The oil, either the oil is not enough, or the pressure of the oil is not enough. That can lead to overheating, and a couple of other things. Of course, you can have the issue of water and everything like that. But for oil, these things can lead to it. When you are having leakage and you do not notice on time, and then the oil has reduced, and then it's not going as far, it's not going as fast as it's supposed to go. It's not lubricating the part it's supposed to lubricate. It's not enough. That can lead to overheating. And overheating, if not curbed, if you don't notice on time, it can even lead to your engine stalling. So these are some of the signs. When you start noticing that your engine is overheating and your water is okay, your coolant and everything is okay, you might have to start thinking, maybe the oil is having an issue. Maybe you're having an issue with your oil, your lubrication system. So you look out for that. But of course, a lot of times when you have overheating, it's directly related to the coolant and the oil thing, or maybe the fan is not working, but the lubrication system failure can also lead to overheating. And then you have the oil leakage, which is the common one. Once you come out for your car in the morning, the first thing is you look around your car and notice, is there oil on the floor? Is there oil droppage on the floor? That simply tells you that there's a leakage. Now, sometimes it might not be on the floor. It might be on top of the engine, maybe the casing or somewhere. There's a leakage there. When you open up your bonnet, you will see. If the car is passing places where there are dust, you see that those areas will collect more dust. That is to show you that, there is oil leakage here, and the oil is attracting the dust. So that tells you that is a simple telltale sign of oil leakage in the engine. So you notice all those things. And when you park your car, then you move it out in the morning, you might see a little bit of drop on the floor. Don't ignore it, because sometimes when we see that, we'll be like, the oil drop is very small. It's not very big, so it doesn't stop anything. But what you don't know is that oil drop that is dropping small, little by little, eventually within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, it's already consumed up to quarter of a liter. and that reduces the quantity of the oil you have in your engine. So don't take it for granted when you have that. So these are some of the signs that you look out for. Now, there are causes of this failure that you should also be very conversant with. One of them is lack of maintenance. When you don't maintain your car enough, when you don't follow the routine maintenance you are supposed to carry out for your car, that can lead to issues. And this can be as a result of you not changing your filter when you are supposed to change. Have somewhere have clogged oil filter. So when your oil filter is clogged and you don't change it on time, that can result to an issue. Remember, it can affect the pressure of your oil, and it can also affect, when the oil is not moving at good pressure because it's clogged, the oil is not getting to areas where it's supposed to get to quickly and, at a normal quantity. That can be an issue. So the maintenance of car is very important, and that is why when you go to service your car, it has become a norm, which I'm happy it is, but some people still try to, to act smart about it. But when you go to service your car, the best thing, once you are changing the oil, you're also changing the filter. The two of them go hand in hand. You don't just change oil and leave filter. If you change oil and leave filter, it's like pouring a new wine in an old skin. That's just a literal explanation. So the best thing, once you're changing the oil, you're changing the filter, everything is new, and you know that your system is, clean and crisp. Oil contamination, okay. This is another one that you have to check out for. These are some of the causes of oil failure. When the oil is contaminated, maybe when there's water in the system, maybe coolant has gotten into the engine, maybe oil has gotten into the engine, there's leakage somewhere, and then water got into the engine, contaminated the oil, or maybe particles from wear and tear of the engine. Of course, systems have been designed to make sure that this doesn't get out of hand when you have wears. That is why you have your drain plug. It usually has a little bit of a magnetic tip that attracts those metals so that they don't go back into the engine. But what happens when the metal becomes a lot? Eventually, some of them will still escape back into the engine, and for them to go into the engine, they might eventually get into the filter, and then they clog the filter. So it's important that you check if the oil is contaminated. And one of the best way to check, which is the easiest way to check, is your dipstick. So the dipstick is not just to check the level of oil; it's also to check the contamination, to check how clean the oil is, to check if the oil is contaminated. You check the color of the oil. When you are checking the quantity, you're also checking the color of the oil, and then from there, and also you can also use your hand. As well, you can use your hand to know if the oil is still thick enough or what. So that can help you to know on time. And then one oil pump. I've talked about oil pump. If you haven't watched the video, please check it out on this channel. The video is there. So the oil pump itself, because it has moving parts, there's a possibility that over a period of time, as it continues to work, the part might begin to wear, it might begin to lose the strength that it has, and so efficiency will drop. Now, when efficiency drops, it's going to mean that it's not going to pump oil with as much pressure as it is supposed to. So that can lead to low oil pressure, which is also a very big problem for you. So you have to check that the oil pump, when you start having low pressure for heating, these are some of the things you check. If the oil pump itself is actually very active, or if you need to change it. So you have to notice this. So this can be a cause for system failure. And the oil filter clog, I also talked about that already. So when the filter is clogged, that can lead to system failure. The filter is meant to absorb the debris that is in the oil system, in the oil. So when the debris becomes much, maybe because of wear and tear, it becomes much, and you did not change it. When the oil gets there, the oil will, or not all the oil will be filtered quickly, and so the oil will not get into the engine quickly as fast as it should get to, and that can lead to the system having to overheat or things like that. So this is what you should check out for. And the way, let me make a quick explanation here. So you can see the way this oil filter is now. I want your eye to come to this point. Now look at it now. The way it is, when you fix it into the where it's supposed to fix to, this point is where the oil is supposed to escape from. While this point, this little point, are the places where the oil is supposed to go into. So when the oil goes in through this point, we'll have films. Maybe I'll make a special video of that. You have films that are something like this. So the oil is supposed to go through all these points. Little tiny hole, like small nets. The oil is supposed to go into this place. So these things are supposed to filter the oil. When they filter the oil, they will now come into the center. So when they come to the center, they will now move into your engine. So when these dots, small dots you are seeing here, the film that you have here, the filter that you have here, when they are clogged, that means the oil going into there will not be enough. And when the oil is not enough oil will come out from this point. And when not enough oil come out from this point, that will mean you will have low pressure, you don't have enough oil in the system. It can lead to overheating and a lot of other issues. So that is something you should look out for. And also, which is the popular one, heat or leakage. When there's a leakage, that is a cause of lubrication failure. That can lead to lubrication failure, which I believe you already know already. So let's move on to the next one. Let me move to the next slide. And then we'll have lubrication failure, the effect into engine performance. What happens? How does it affect? I've talked a little bit of them, but let me still go over them. You have the increased friction. When you have low oil, it can increase the friction. When you increase the friction, the engine can literally affect the engine. You hear a lot of noise, and it can even lead to engine seizure because of that. So you have to be worried about it. So when you have failure, you don't just say you want to manage it and be like, okay, you're still going to use it for 1 week or 2 weeks. No. When you start experiencing failures like that, or start experiencing that there could be issue, the best thing is to get it fixed. Don't allow it to become an issue. So when you have engine friction, like I said already, it can lead to engine seizure, because when there's the parts begin to grind against each other, it's going to heat up, and it's going to heat up, which is going to lead to overheating that will have you. When you overheat, it's going to expand. When you expand, it's going to seize up, and then the engine will eventually stop. Now, also have loss of power because it is overheating, because the thing is not moving very well. The efficiency is going to drop, so you're not going to have a lot of power in the system. So these are some of the common effects when you have lubrication failure. So it's important that you don't have a failure at all. Once you notice it or you suspect it, get it fixed. So these are what you do if you suspect that there's a failure. The best thing you do or you should do is to stop right away. Don't try to be like, okay, I'm going to manage it for the next 1 week or next one. No, stop right away. If you're on the way, stop right away. Call your mechanic, call your technicians, let them take a look at it. Or if you can't check it, you check immediately. Check for oil level. Check for oil level. If the oil is still enough, and you inspect for leakage. Maybe the oil is leaking, and then that is why it's not enough, and things like that. Of course, when you start, there are certain things you experience that might not just be oil. It might be other things. Maybe when you're having overheating, it may not be oil all the time. A lot of times it can be the coolant. So you have to also check that. But in the case where you're suspecting lubrication, you're suspecting the oil, these are some of the common things that you check. Just check the oil level, check if there's leakage, and then maybe check the grade of the oil level also. Maybe it's not absorbing enough, not absorbing heat enough. That's also contributing to the overheating of the car and things like that. So these are some of the things you look out for when you suspect that there is a failure. And then how do you prevent these failures once you start suspecting them, or in order to you prevent them from happening at all? One of the important ones you do is change oil regularly. This is like the most important one that you do. Change the oil regularly. Now, when you buy oil or when you get a car, there is usually a grade that is recommended for the car. So the best thing you will do for yourself is know what grade is recommended for your car or for your engine. Now, when you know that grade, stick to it. Don't try to be like, okay, it's expensive or you can't get, and then start mixing up oil and all of that. That can lead to a lot of issues. So the best practice is to stick to the grade that is recommended by the manufacturer. And when you get that, you work on it. They might, okay, it might be recommended for 3,000 miles, 10,000 miles, 30,000 miles, whatever miles is recommended for the oil change, stick to it. That will ensure that your system is always smooth and you don't have issue with oil at all. But when you start having, delaying the oil change, delaying servicing, that can begin to give you issues. So they check the oil level as well. Sometimes the oil might be enough, the oil might be good, the grade might still be okay, but the level has dropped because you might be having leakages. So you also have to inspect for leakages. So maybe there's one gasket somewhere, so the oil is leaking. So if you inspect and you find leakages, you get a plug, you get it fixed right away. Because if you don't fix the leakages, it's going to lead to oil shortage. And when the oil reduces, you know what it's going to lead to overheating, it's going to lead to other issues. So these are some of the things you check to prevent system failure. So if you make sure that the oil level is always okay and the oil is changed regularly as it's supposed to, and you don't have leakages, then you might as well be, you have a relaxed mind. And also importantly, you check the oil filter. You replace it as I told you. Now, like I said before, the regular practice now is when you are changing the oil, you are changing the filter. So don't just change oil and then leave the filter. So you might be causing problem to yourself, because that might even lead to the damaging of the new oil that you're putting into the system, because the new oil have to go through the debris of the old oil that is in the filter. So the best thing, once you're changing the oil, you are changing the filter, which is the normal routine for servicing of vehicles. So that will ensure that you are preventing a system failure. And one of the important one, which is very, very important, which is not talked about a lot of times because people are worried about the money, is high quality oil. Now, this is gradually becoming a commonplace. People are, gradually understanding that high quality oil is important, even though they may cost more, but they actually work very well because they have been designed and manufactured in such a way that they have high capacity to absorb heat, to work under high temperature and high pressure and not degrade. And also they have good additives added to them, so they are very, very good for the engine. So if you have the money and the means, the best is always to go for high quality oil because you always enjoy it. Of course, they will be more expensive than the regular oil, but they will give you more good, better result. And sometimes even the duration of usage will be longer than the regular oil. But if you can afford it, stick to the regular oil. But however, just make sure that you change it regularly as you are supposed to, and not try to overuse the oil. So these are some of the things you look out for. Now let me go to, I think, the last slide, I guess. Okay, this is the tip, maintenance tip. This is something you should always do, which is almost similar to what I just said before. Always follow the recommended oil change schedule. Use the right oil type for your engine. Make sure that you are not mixing the oil and using different oil because they are cheaper. Regularly replace your filter, and then monitor the oil level as needed, and of course periodically entire system check for leakage also. So these are the things, these are the tips that you should always have in mind to make sure that your system does not fail. Now this one is the last one I'm going to talk about, which is the lubrication system failure in different types of engine. Now depending on the engine, there are certain things that you expect, or that the failures that you could expect could happen to them. If you are using, or if you are working on an automotive engine, the common failures that you see that the lubrication system will have is low oil pressure, leakages, and contaminated oil. These are the common ones. Doesn't mean that other ones cannot erupt, but these are the common things that you notice that is the cause of failures in automotive engine. Why for motorcycles, which are smaller engines, the two-stroke engine and the rest of them, they don't use the oil pressure, they use splash system. So you can expect to have issues with the splash lubrication system, which is actually of fewer parts, so it's much more easy to manage. And then when you are making use of industrial engine, or you're working on industrial engine, which are big heavy duty engines, some of the things you expect is clogged filter and oil pump failure. These are the common issues that you have with big industrial machines. And the last one is when you are working with marine engines. They don't want the important one, since marine engine is on the water already, so you're expecting contamination from water ingress. So this is the one that you expect when you're working with that. So when you have failure, these are the things you should focus on first. Look at these things and make sure that they're not the cause. And if they're the cause, you fix them. But if they aren't the cause, then you can move on and troubleshoot other things. So that will be that for lubrication system failure. And I hope that this is very explanatory. I try to make it very explanatory. But if you have issues or have questions, please leave it for me in the comment section, and I'll do my best to clarify on them. Thank you.